Okay, so I've been playing a huge amount of Breath of the Wild recently, and that's been the reason I haven't uploaded in such a long time. But while playing through Breath of the Wild, noticing all the Easter eggs, and just thoroughly enjoying the story and gameplay, it made me think of Zelda's 3D roots, where the series came from and started, and because I've never played the original 3 games, I started reminiscing about the first 2 3D titles, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, 2 of the most revered Zelda games, if not video games, of all time. These 2 legends of gaming are some of the best games I've ever played, and I've recently 100% completed both of them. They've been pitted against one another since Majora's Mask came out 17 years ago. Well, I'm here to put an end to this timeless debate once and for all. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is FrogMario6J, and today, I present to you Ocarina of Time vs. Majora's Mask. Also, sorry about the footage quality, capture cards are expensive. Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask have remarkably similar gameplay styles. This is because Majora's Mask was released only 2 years after Ocarina of Time, and they were created on the same engine. They both have the classic sword antics, amazing bow and hookshot controls, that is, on the 3DS versions. I love gyro controls. Everything that Ocarina has, Majora has also, and that's great, but Majora's also added some new bells and whistles in the form of the masks. The Deku, Goron, and Zora masks give Link some amazing new powers. The Deku mask enables Link to take on the form of a Deku, being able to spit magic bubbles and use Deku flowers to fly. Goron, Link can pick up huge objects, roll like Sonic in a spin dash, please tell me I'm not the only one who's made this comparison, make a huge ground slam, and pack a huge punch worthy of Little Mac. Zora Link can swim like a pro, sporting some fin boomerangs, a power swim that takes up magic, and some martial art moves. These 3 masks are just 3 main masks that give Link abilities. Many of the other ones grant Link some great powers. Ocarina of Time has amazing gameplay, and it did revolutionize gaming with Z-targeting, but Majora's Mask took all that and added way more. The winner of this category is Majora's Mask. While the story in Majora's Mask is amazing, I'm going to have to go with Ocarina of Time on this one. Majora's Mask told a new, fresh story for Zelda, but Ocarina brought the classic Link vs. Ganon into the 3D world. The story is well thought out, and even though I knew it was going to happen while playing it, it kept me on the edge of my seat. I love how, spoiler alert for a 19-year-old game, Sheik was Zelda the entire time. I'm also a fan of how you feel a personal grudge against Ganondorf. You don't just hate him because he's the bad guy, and you're the good guy. He took the lovable castle town and utterly demolished it. He showed you up as a child, throwing some sort of dark fireball at you, and that makes you want to get back at him. You're even told later that he killed fellow Gerudo to gain power. You realize how power-hungry and evil he is, and you just want to ruin his day and spit in his cake. Ocarina wins. This category is a no-brainer. Ocarina's music, so heroic and spirit-lifting, it makes you want to march up to Ganon and run him through with your little Kokiri sword as a child. It feels as if you are truly on this amazing heroic quest, that this will truly impact the rest of the games in the entire series, which it does. But Majora's Mask music is just eons better. The Song of Healing and Final Hours are prime examples of this. Sure, Zelda's Lullaby and Gerudo Valley are both amazing pieces of music, but those are just 2 songs. Pretty much all of Majora's Mask's songs are just as, if not equally better. Those that aren't recycled from Ocarina of Time, of course. Majora's Mask is the definite winner of this category. I honestly need to say nothing about this category. Do I really need to go into why Ocarina of Time is more iconic than Majora's Mask? Other than the fact that it's rated the #1 video game of all time by many reviewing websites, I mean, there's more, but I don't feel like getting into it all. Bottom line, Ocarina wins. This category was a bit more challenging than some of the others. First, let's look at Majora's dungeons and their respective bosses. Majora does have the smallest amount of dungeons in any Zelda game, except for Breath of the Wild. It also has only like 4 dungeons, unless you count Hyrule Castle, but we're getting off topic. First up, the Woodfall Temple. The temple is okay. It's the first dungeon, so it's not too hard, and it complements Deku and Youngling's abilities. The boss is Odalwa, which is decently challenging for the time it was presented. Deku Link is used perfectly in this boss battle. Second, we got the Snowhead Temple. This temple is not the best. It's long, boring, and very punishing. I'm honestly just not a huge fan of it. The boss, named God, on the other hand, is my favorite in the game. You get a great sense of rush, and beating upon God with some fire arrows is utterly satisfying. Thirdly, we've got the Great Bay Temple. This is probably the worst temple in the game. The water current is extremely difficult to use, and having it be the main gimmick does not help it. All the rooms look the same, and the only praise I can give it is the music. The boss, also the worst in the game, is named Georg, and looks like some kind of freaky fish I'd eat at a sushi restaurant. I get into the fight in further detail, but I don't feel like breaking something today. In fact, it took me 13 minutes just to defeat this boss when getting footage for the video. That's some insight into how aggravating it is. The final temple is the Stone Tower Temple, which is my favorite in this game. The temple flipping gimmick is always fun, and the overall atmosphere is great. The boss, Twin Mold, is meh. In the 3DS version, you have to kill the blue Twin Mold first, and then you're rewarded with the Giant's Mask. The mask transforms Link into a giant, and you can straight up wrestle the boss to the ground to take it out. The final boss in this game is none other than Majora's Mask itself. After calling the 4 giants to the top of the clock tower and getting them to hold up the moon, Majora flies inside of the moon, and Link and Tattle have to chase after the mask. After some hunjinks on a mysterious lush green field inside the moon, it's time to fight Majora. The first phase of this boss starts off with the mask flying around shooting laser beams at you. After you damage it enough, it will call on Odalwa's, God's, Georg's, and Twin Mold's remains. These masks will fly around and damage you, but can be taken out easily. The second phase, Majora's Incarnation, will jump around sporadically, and your timing to hit it has to be just right. Third and final phase, Majora's Wrath, is the toughest. It will hit you with its weird body whip things, but eventually it will go down. This boss is weird, crazy, and all over the place, with the feel going from threatening to weird to an epic confrontation. Overall, it does what it needs to do to be the final boss in this game. Now I won't go over every temple in Ocarina of Time, but here are a few of my favorites. And just so you know before we start, I am a fan of all the temples in Ocarina of Time, even the water temple, but just to some lesser degree than the others. Anyway, we have inside Jabu Jabu's belly to start things off. I couldn't really get much footage of this dungeon, as I'd already completed the game and it wouldn't let me back inside Jabu Jabu, so you just have to take my word on this one. The atmosphere is on point, it's relatively short, and it gets done what it sets out to do. The boss, Baronade, is not really that noteworthy. Secondly, we have the Spirit Temple. This is my favorite temple in the game. First off, you have to start it off as Child Link. You do half the dungeon, and then you must do the other half as Adult Link. This is great because it doesn't feel as laborious as any of the other dungeons. You can tackle half the temple, leave, have a cup of tea, maybe a sandwich, and get back into the action. It's also nice how the rooms in the adult section mirror the ones in the child section, so you always have a bit of a feel of what you should do. The boss, Twinrova, is amazingly and beautifully crafted, and awesomely incorporated with the terrain, atmosphere of the temple, story of the game, and items you have so far. Twinrova might actually be my favorite boss in all of Zelda. The last temple I'm going to mention is Ganon's castle. You have to take down power sources that are creating a barrier getting between you and Ganon. Each little power segment is a wonderful callback to each of the adult temples you've completed, and Ganondorf/Ganon is a wonderful boss. The tennis match is very fair, it's easy enough, and each mistake you make takes a good amount of damage, and you feel responsible when you mess up. The Ganon boss fight is incredibly epic. The music complements it perfectly, and the atmosphere is through the roof. For me, in this category, Ocarina of Time wins. Do I really need to get into this? Fine. Let's compare two of the most prominent side quests in these games. Some might expect me to talk about the Gold Skulltula quest in Ocarina of Time, but I'm going to go with the Biggoron Sword quest instead. In this quest, you must deliver a bunch of items to people throughout Hyrule, and you will eventually get a sword more powerful than the Master Sword. That's it. In Majora's Mask, I feel, and most would agree, that the most notable side quest is the Anju and Kafei quest. In this quest, you meet Anju, an engaged girl whose fiancé is missing. When you eventually track him down, you find out that the masked Skull Kid has transformed him into a child. Horrified, Kafei ran away to hide. You help them both out and reunite them eventually. The meeting is sad and sweet, taking place only minutes before the moon crashes and obliterates Termina. Anju says they'll greet the morning together, the morning that will never be, since by this time you should really get back to rewinding time. You can either do so, rendering your impact on their lives non-existent, or let them die together along with you and the rest of Termina. No doubt, Majora's Mask wins this category by a landslide. Finally, we have the overall experience. Which of these games leave you with a lasting feeling or memory? This is probably the most opinion-based category on the list, but here's what I think. While Ocarina of Time tells the classic story of good versus evil, Majora's Mask gives you a more emotional impact, as it should. Majora was designed to be more emotional than Ocarina, and it definitely is. You become closer to the people of Termina, and you feel as if each individual life in this land matters as much as yours, even though they're just NPCs. You aren't obligated to save them like you are in Ocarina. You're the chosen one in Ocarina. You must save everybody, as it's your destiny. But in Majora's Mask, you just stumble across this land. You have no need to save these people, you're a stranger in their home. But as you meet them, you feel more and more obligated to save them from their daunting fate. In conclusion, Majora's gives you a lasting impact, and while Ocarina of Time is great, I just feel that Majora's is better. Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are both fantastic games, and I can't say enough good things about them. In the end though, I feel that Majora's Mask is just a superior game. Take into account though that this is not fact. If you like Ocarina of Time instead, that's fine. It's your opinion, and you should stick with it. Anyway, thank you for watching. Make sure to leave this video with a like, guys. Even if I ruined your childhood by saying that I like Majora's better, hit that like button, as I'll appreciate it greatly. Thank you all so much for watching once again, and I'll see you next time.